Hello, my name is Fiona Clancy and I am an educational psychologist working in the Dublin region. This presentation was developed by Lucy Gannon in the Cork office and I, with contributions from members of the Literacy Working Group and the ERC. The post-primary assessment and diagnosis of literacy in English follows a collaboration between the National Educational Psychological Service, NEPS, and the Educational Research Centre, the ERC. We will use this test acronym PPAD-E throughout the presentation. The aim of the test is to create a standardised assessment of literacy in English for use in Irish post-primary schools. This training session includes an introduction to the PPAD-E, administration tasks before assessment day, administering the assessment, administration script, and notes on the next steps after administration. Now we're going to look at an introduction to the PPAD-E. The PPAD-E came about following a collaboration between the National Educational Psychological Service, NEPS, and the Educational Research Centre, the ERC. The aim being to develop a standardised assessment of English literacy that could be used in Irish post-primary schools. This test was developed, trialled and standardised in a variety of Irish schools for use as a literacy assessment test for teachers to administer and score quickly and easily themselves. The final testing of standardisation began in October 2019 with large-scale testing across 77 post-primary schools. Both DEIS and non-DEIS, including community, comprehensive, secondary and ETB schools. We gathered data from 1,738 first-year students in total. The Educational Research Centre took responsibility for sampling procedures, scoring and analysis, and the creation of national norms. Data processing and analysis by the ERC to date confirms the PPAD-E to be a high quality and fit for purpose test. PPAD-E is appropriate for the vast majority of first year students, with 99.5% of those assessed passing the entry-level word reading list for administration in the autumn term. NEPS psychologists, through their ongoing work in schools, were aware that post-primary schools needed a comprehensive assessment tool for English literacy that was based on the Irish population. They identified a gap in the market for such a standardised test. Currently, testing of literacy in post-primary school relies primarily on tests using UK or US norms. The PPAD-E is culturally appropriate and tailored to the Irish context, designed for use by teachers. It is helpful for screening for difficulties, particularly at first year intake. It is useful in diagnostic assessment, monitoring and evaluating progress. It can help identify if further assessment might be needed. It is helpful in providing data that can be used to contribute towards race, DARE and the Irish exemption process. It is useful in establishing and reviewing standards. The PPAD-E offers us a standardised screening and diagnostic test that will allow us to assess literacy skills. It is currently available for use with first year students, but the intention is to standardise it across the age range in the future. It includes all the tools and materials that enable test administration, scoring, interpretation and intervention for individual students, all of which can be completed by teachers. All subtests, except for word reading, can be administered to a group such as a whole class. The special education teacher, the SET team or guidance counsellor will more than likely coordinate the administration, data input, scoring and sharing of results. The group administered test takes approximately 60 to 70 minutes to complete. The PPAD-E test includes 5 subtests: spelling, reading comprehension, writing, reading speed and word reading. the word reading subtest is administered individually with each student and takes approximately 3 to 5 minutes per student. Let's consider the administration tasks that need to be looked at before the assessment day. This is likely to be organised by the Special Education Coordinator and/or the Guidance Counsellor. These are the activities to complete prior to the testing day. The PPAD-E pack you've received should consist of the following. For students, 1 test booklet per student plus 1 spare per 25 booklets. For the teacher, 3 manuals. Manual 1, Teacher Administration. Manual 2, Marking Guidance. Manual 3, Scoring, Reporting, Interpretation and Intervention. This manual contains instructions on how to install the PPAD-E scoring and reporting tool, 1 set of laminated copies of the word reading tests, 1 set of transparent overlays and scoring stencils for marking the spelling and reading speed tests. PPAD-E scoring and reporting software tool. See the manual above for instructions on downloading this software. Note, if you're missing any materials or require any extra copies of the test booklet, please contact the ERC PPAD-E team. In accordance with your school's assessment policy, should you choose to inform parents about the assessment, there is an information sheet for parents available to download from the ERC's website at www.erc.ie/PPAD-E. You can also see a sample of this in the Teacher's Administration Manual, Appendix 1. It is not strictly necessary to tell students about the test in advance. The decision regarding whether or not to inform the students is at the discretion of the school. If students are informed, please reassure them that they do not need to prepare and that they should just do their best on the day of the test. An information sheet for students and an information sheet for teachers is available to download at www.erc.ie/PPAD-E. Samples can also be seen in the Teacher's Administration Manual, Appendix 2 and 3. Testing should be arranged for a day when attendance is likely to be high and distractions are minimised. For example, it's preferable to avoid days immediately before or after school holidays. If possible, the test should be administered in the morning, and every effort should be made to ensure testing does not overlap with school breaks. With regard to the setup of the room, it is important to administer the test in a room with adequate space for students to work independently of one another. The PPAD-E is easily administered to a full class group. A whiteboard or equivalent should be available so that the procedures for completing the information on the front cover and filling in answers can be illustrated. A notice saying, "Testing, do not disturb," should be placed on the door to prevent interruptions during testing. Displayed visual materials such as sight words, guidance on writing, etc., relevant to the content of the test should be removed or covered. Before the day of testing, you should decide what class name students should record on the front cover of the test booklet. With regard to staffing arrangements, the group-based part of the PPAD-E assessment can be administered by 1 staff member, but it is helpful to have at least 1 other member of staff present in the room to provide assistance during setup and to help supervise the students during testing. Other teaching staff may also assist in administering the individual word reading test, provided that they understand exactly how to administer it under uniform testing conditions. For the setup of individual administration of the word reading test, there should be a separate room or rooms for this part of the assessment, and a system in place to supervise the other students waiting for and completing the individual test. Students should be asked to wait in small groups outside the testing room to ensure efficiencies of time. Before the day of testing, you may need to decide whether some students should be exempted from the assessment. A general principle is to include as many students as possible in the PPAD-E testing. Table 3 illustrates the categories of special education needs, SEN, and the exemption and inclusion criteria. On page 11, should act as a guide in your decision making regarding who can easily access the test. Facilitate students who require assistance to complete the test, example with SNA and teacher support, with any aspect of the assessment that does not involve literacy skills. For example, turning pages, repeating instructions, and/or giving affirmative attention. The SNA or teacher must not assist in any way that interferes with the integrity of the test itself. For example, reading comprehension questions to a student. In addition, any assistance given should be noted on the assistance column of the data sheet as a yes. Please check where applicable that the following tasks have been done in accordance with your school policy. You have all the test materials required, parents have been informed, relevant student and staff have been informed, room setup and start time is confirmed, anyone to be exempted has been identified, anyone requiring SNA access has been identified. You have the assistance of another staff member in the school during the assessment and assistance of a teacher or teachers for the individual word reading test session if needed. Now we're going to look at how to administer the test in detail. Please ensure that you have the following materials on the test day: the Teacher Administration Manual, one booklet per student, plus one spare booklet for teachers to refer to during administration, a timing device, stopwatch or smartphone, the class list. You can print off a copy and complete it by hand and update the electronic copy following the assessment, or you can complete the electronic copy in real time if you have access to a laptop or computer in the assessment room. Students should bring a pen or pencil and an eraser to complete the assessment. Some spare materials, such as pencils with erasers, should be available in case they are needed. Use the class list to call out each student's name and record their participation status according to the codes below. P for present, A for absent, E for exempt, M for missing for part of the test, or for refusal. Ensure that any student that has been exempted from testing is not present and that this is recorded on the class sheet. If a student receives assistance during the assessment, note this in the assistance column with a yes. Ensure that each student can sit comfortably and has adequate space to discourage copying or conferring. Ask students to clear all materials from their desks other than a pen or pencil, with or without an eraser. Distribute one test booklet per student, leaving it face down, and instruct the students not to open it until told to do so. All statements on the administration scripts that are in blue italics should be read aloud when delivering instructions. Ensure that the students work in silence. Do not begin testing until you are certain that each student understands the instructions and is ready to start. You can discuss or explain practice questions in detail, but do not make up extra sample questions. Except for the practice questions, you should never indicate the correct answer or explain the rationale of a test question. Limit your help to the mechanical aspects of recording answers, clarifying directions, and finding the right place in the test booklet. If a student asks about the content of a particular question, say, if you are not sure about the answer, choose the answer you think is best and continue with the next question. If some students are falling behind or seem unable to select any of the answers, encourage them to do their best within the time available. When testing has begun, move around the room in order to identify students who might be having difficulties or are not following directions properly. This will also deter copying and conferring. It can be useful to enlist the help of another staff member for supervision. We will now go through the administration script for the PPAD-E with you. Become familiar with test administration instructions and script. In this manual, instructions for during the test session are presented under a pale green banner. Where exact spoken instructions are needed, these are shown in a blue italics. Test administrators should read through this part of the manual in advance of administering the test to ensure familiarity with administration instructions. Some sections of the test are timed, and these sections have a clock symbol. The administration script in the Teacher's Administration Manual begins on page 15 with an introduction that is read to students. The instructions for filling in the cover page are also detailed in the script provided on page 15. Teachers should circulate and check everybody has his or her details written down. Then read through the instructions on the front cover with students, which explains why they are doing the test and the format of the test, referring to the characters shown on the slide. Introducing spelling. Spelling is the first of the 5 subtests to be administered. This test measures students' skills in single word spelling. There are 45 items in the word spelling test. Such tests can be very helpful in identifying students who have continuing and marked difficulty with spelling. Note, before administering the spelling subtest, teachers should ensure that they are confident and familiar with the exact pronunciation of each word. The teacher administering the spelling subtest needs to have the Teacher's Administration Manual to hand, open to page 16. Students require the student booklet, either blue or yellow, as well as a pen or pencil, with or without an eraser. It is worth clarifying that an eraser is not needed, but all erasers do not need to be removed. It is just that they are not needed and students should be discouraged from using them. The spelling subtest begins on page 2 of the student's booklet, both blue and yellow versions. An introductory script is provided. This should be read to the group in advance of the administration of the spelling test. Teachers should familiarise themselves with the script in advance of administration. This introduction includes encouragement to students to do their best on all items and to take a guess if unsure. Further instruction encourages students to write clearly and neatly. There is also reassurance if they do not know an answer. This is an untimed test and all items are administered. Please note that the spelling subtest is the same for the blue and the yellow versions of the test. The format for administration of each spelling item is the same. Read the item number, read the target word, read the sentence provided, then read the word again. For example, number 1, as. It was as hard as a rock. As. As this is a group test, please give adequate time for students to attempt each spelling before moving on to the next one on the list. Completion of the test. On completion of the test, students are instructed to await further direction before turning to the next page in their booklet. Note, teachers supervising the administration of this test should move around the room and check that students are only recording the target spelling word and not writing out the entire sentence. The reading comprehension subtest is the second subtest of the PPAD-E. The PPAD-E reading comprehension was designed to assess the students' reading comprehension skills using cloze exercises. There are 8 reading comprehension passages in total. The test items and blanks increase in complexity of vocabulary, sentence structure and reasoning as the students progress through the passage. Materials. The teacher administering the reading comprehension subtest needs to have the teacher's administration manual to hand on page 18. Students require the student's booklet, either blue or yellow, opened onto page 4, as well as a pen or pencil. This is a time test, so a timing device like a stopwatch or phone will be required. The instructions for the test are on page 18. 2 sample items are practiced first with the students. The first is, she went to the blank to buy some food. Students are asked to share their responses. Students then work independently on a second sample item and responses are discussed with the group. Students are then asked to complete 8 passages in total, writing clearly and neatly. They are asked to write the one word they think is correct or fits best in the sentence. Students are told if they are unsure about how to spell a word, just try and spell the word as best as they can. 15 minutes are allocated for this test, and students are reminded when they have 5 minutes left. Here is a sample of a reading comprehension passage. The writing subtest is the third subtest to be administered. The PPAD-E writing subtest is designed to measure students' writing in response to 2 different topics. In this subtest, students are asked to write 2 separate paragraphs, 1 narrative, fictional, 1 informational, non-fiction. The writing topics are generally well known and accessible to the students. Materials. The teacher administering the writing subtest needs to have the teacher's administration manual to hand on page 19. Students will need the student booklet open to page 9, as well as a pen or pencil. This is a time test, so a timing device, a stopwatch or a phone will be required. Teachers read out the first topic for the students at the beginning to ensure that poor readers are not disadvantaged on this subtest. Students are then given 5 minutes to write on this topic. After 5 minutes, the students are asked to stop. Teachers read out the second topic. Students are then given another 5 minutes to complete the second topic. After the second 5 minutes has elapsed, they are asked to put their pens and pencils down. Students are reminded of the importance of displaying their ideas and word knowledge and not to be deterred by spelling errors. This is a sample of a writing topic. The reading speed subtest is the 4th subtest to be administered and concludes the group administered part of the PPAD-E. Speed subtest samples reading speed, a combination of speed, accuracy and understanding. Tests of reading speed can help to identify those students who can read, perhaps slowly and with great effort, and who can understand what they read, but whose rate of reading is slow. For students who read slowly, this can affect day-to-day learning, particularly in text-heavy subjects, as well as on performance in timed examinations. There are 90 items in total in which the student reads silently and marks circles T for true or F for false for each sentence. Materials. The teacher administering the reading subtest needs to have the teacher's administration manual to hand on page 21. Students require the student booklet as well as a pen or pencil. This is a time test, so a timing device such as a stopwatch or a phone will be required. The introductory script on page 21 provides an explanation of item format. Students are guided through 2 work examples. A pig has 4 legs. 4 practice items are then completed independently by the students and reviewed with the group. Instructions are given to wait the start signal. Timing begins when the start signal is given. Students are asked to complete as many items as possible within 3 minutes. When the 3 minutes has elapsed, students are asked to mark a large X next to the last item they have completed and to put their pen or pencil down. You can see this on the slide here. Teachers should circulate to ensure that this is done. This is an important measure to ensure the accuracy of scoring. The reading speed subtest concludes the group administered part of the PPAD-E, and all the booklets should now be collected from the students. The word reading subtest is the 5th and last subtest to be administered, and it is administered individually. So students complete the test individually with the teacher in a separate room. The individual word reading subtest helps you identify whether a student is experiencing any difficulties with decoding and accurately reading individual words. There is no other context clues to help them. Ensure you have the booklet for your assigned students to record the responses. In this subtest, students are asked to read a list of single words of increasing difficulty. It provides a standardised measure of a student's word reading skills. This is a one-to-one administered untimed test. Even though this is an untimed test, it can be helpful to note those students who read or decode in a laboured or slow manner. Please note, teachers should familiarise themselves with the pronunciation of the words on the list before administering the subtest. Materials needed. For this subtest, you will need the Teacher's Administration Manual, page 22 to 24, the 4 lists of words, either blue or yellow, that correspond to the student's completed test booklet. Ensure if the student completed a blue booklet, then they read the corresponding blue word lists. Equally, if a student completes a yellow booklet, then you use the corresponding yellow word list. Ensure the reading card matches the student's test booklet. So use a blue word reading card for students using a blue test booklet. The teacher reads aloud instructions verbatim on page 24. The student then begins reading each word aloud on their laminated word reading card. The teacher scores responses directly onto the student's test booklet and writes the attempted word in the attempt column if possible. Please ensure students cannot see what you're writing in their test booklet. Do not proceed to the next list unless the student has correctly read the basal level of words on the current one. There are 4 lists in total. On list 1, a student has to read 10 words correctly to move on to list 2. On subsequent lists, they must read 8 or more words to proceed to the next list. Further guidance is available on page 23. Do not correct students' errors as they read or ask them to reread words, as this could be deflating for the students. For each word that the student reads correctly, circle 1 in the score column. The word must be exactly right. For each word the student reads incorrectly, circle 0. Please write the attempt at the word that they make in the attempt column when possible. If the student pronounces the word letter by letter or syllable by syllable, instead of reading them fluently, ask him or her to read the words silently and then say the word smoothly. If you do not hear the word clearly, ask the student to say the word again. For the list that the student has attempted, count the number of correct responses, ones, for the student and enter the scoring test total in the box at the bottom of each list. Leave the total boxes blank for lists that the student did not reach, or if all sections of the test are blank, for example, if it was not administered to a student. The test will be scored by the special education teacher, the SET team, or the guidance counsellor on the paper assessment booklet. Manual 2 on marking guidance and the accompanying video provides full instructions for scoring the booklet. Total raw scores, the numbers of items correct, for each subtest will be uploaded to an online scoring and reporting tool. The scoring tool will automatically generate a school, class and individual student report, including standard scores and percentile ranks indicating how each student performed compared to the broader population. Qualitative interpretation of each student's competencies and suitable interventions will be provided. Manual 3, Scoring, Reporting, Interpretation and Intervention, and the corresponding video, provides detail on using the software tool and how to interpret results and reports generated from the tool. That was the final slide in how to administer the PPAD-E. We hope you found it helpful and that you feel confident in how to go about administering the PPAD-E in your school. If you require additional support or have further questions about how to administer the test, please contact your assigned NEP psychologist or the designated email addresses as displayed on the slide. Alternatively, you can contact the ERC regarding scoring and the ordering of materials.